hope everyone is doing fine. It has been a couple of weeks that I have been on. Welcome to Yemima's World, the Jelly Moose's Cafe. I will not be here long tonight as I am still a little bit under the weather. You may be able to tell it in my voice. I have been suffering with a really bad sinus infection for the past week. Last week I did a summer camp for preschools, and I premiered my new workshop, Anansi and Me, for early childhood, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. The kids had a lot of fun with their Anansi folktale stories, but every time I work with kids for more than a couple of days at a time, I end up getting sick. And so I was with a different set of kids all last week. And of course, by Saturday, I was feeling bad. And I knew that I had got something from the kids. Last year, around the same time, I did a summer camp and I ended up with COVID. And this year, it was a really bad cold and sinus, which led to a sinus infection. And so this past week, I have been under the weather. I haven't worked at the 9 to 5 plantation since Monday, so I've been off since Monday. I think since the last time I've been online, or I've done an episode after Juneteenth. This is the first episode after the 4th of July. And on that day, I actually had not a show. I was invited to come to an event where they wanted me there on site for 4 hours. And I kind of didn't want to go because I really didn't want to be out there on the 4th of July. And so I gave them my price, thinking if I give them my price for 4 hours, they're not going to meet that. And it was crazy because I told them what my fee was, and they was like, okay, sure. And so I followed up with, well, I have to get paid on the day of, because a lot of times these places where they ask me to present, they take 2 to 3 weeks before they pay me. And so I thought if I told them I needed to be paid on that day, it might, they may say, well, that's okay, we can't do that. But they met that demand as well. I was like, okay, ancestors, maybe you want me to go. So I went to this event, and it was on a plantation, and it was a celebration, of course, of Independence Day for them, because certainly not for us. And I was supposed to be on site from 2:30 to 6:30, and I got there around maybe 1:30. It was an hour away from where I live, so I got there around 1:30, and around 2:30, I was like, well, do you want me to go and, be in the place where you have me set up? And they were like, well, not a lot of people have got here yet. So just, hang out in the cool air conditioner. Because it was hot on that day. They say that it was one of the hottest days ever, but it was hot. So I hung out in the air conditioner, and then about 3:30, I'm like, well, an hour's gone by. I haven't done a thing. So finally they said, well, yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll take you up to where you need to be. And they had me up on a hill not too far from the main house, which would have been the big house back in the day. And they had bands, and it was like 2,000 people that came through the course of the day. So people brought lawn chairs and things, and they had an R&B band, and then they had 2 hillbilly bands. And so I was sitting right up the hill from that. They had a nice table and a chair for me, and I was right underneath a tree. So the sun wasn't hitting me at all. And I wasn't hot at all. I had a little fan that I would fan myself with, and they kept, Gatorade and water coming to me so that I wouldn't get overheated. But honestly, I was not sweating at all. I was not hot. My ancestors really provided shade for me. And they had some other palm-colored people in costumes that were walking around. And so I was there to tell the story of the 1800 slave rebellion of Gabriel. And I tell that story through the eyes of his wife, Nan. And I had brought props of the day. I had my Gabriel flag of death or liberty and had that out there. And they had some things on the table that were of that time period. And, I'm sitting there. And so I was under the impression that they were going to bring tours through and people would stop at my table and I would give a brief story, like maybe 10, 15-minute story of Gabriel and Nan. And so I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for people to come through. And, really nobody's coming through. Nobody's asking me anything. And I'm like, okay. So I sat there. I was just sitting there. A few people would stop and ask a question, and then I would tell them why I was there and tell them the story of Gabriel and remind them that in 1776, we weren't free, and it would take another 90 years before we would become free people. And so that's why I was there. Now, it was, like I said, about 2,000 people that came through the course of the day. And it was mixed. A lot, of white people came through, and a lot of black people came through. Now, they had a whole lot of food trucks, and all of the food trucks, I mean all of the food trucks were black food trucks, which I thought was great because, you can make that bag. I mean, that's why I was there, to get that bag. I wasn't there to celebrate. And so all of the food trucks were black. Like I said, they had an R&B band. And then I saw a lot of black people that were there that actually did come to celebrate. Now, I saw more black people dressed in the red, white, and blue than I saw white people. I saw a handful of white people that may have had on a red, white, and blue t-shirt. And that's about it. The other white people who had on the flag had on the Patriot flag. So they weren't really Americans, I guess. They were patriots, and they had on their Patriot flags. When I tell you the Negropeans, the buffoonery that I saw on that day made my heart hurt. I saw Negropeans in red, white, and blue t-shirts, red, white, and blue shorts, red, white, and blue cowboy hats, red, white, and blue sneakers. There was one family that had 3 little girls, and they had their little girls dressed in red, white, and blue tutus. And I was disgusted. But I digress. I was there to get that bag, and not one black person came up to me, but there was one. There was one black gentleman that came up to me during the course of my time there, and he was with a snow bunny, but he held a conversation with me. He was interested in what I was talking about. Other than that, the others that stopped, of course, were white people who were inquisitive as to why I was even there and what I was doing. But the other black people that came around me or that came past me, they wouldn't even look at me. I felt like that enslaved African on the plantation, when they had done something wrong, and the oppressor, the enslaver, would tie them to what they call the whipping post, or put them in the middle of the plantation in chains and shackles for the others to look at them and say, this is what's going to happen to you if you step out of line. They walked around me as if I was in some type of cage. They wouldn't look at me. They wouldn't engage in conversation with me. They wouldn't speak to me. None of that. It was the oddest thing. And I was thinking to myself, the energy of this plantation is really really visible. I could really, really see the people on that day embodying their ancestors, the ones that were afraid. I didn't see any of them embodying the ancestors who were freedom or death or freedom. I saw a lot of people whose ancestors were obviously afraid to fight back because they would not engage with anything that I was talking about. But it was okay. 6:30 came and the sun started to move around the tree that I was sitting under, and it would have been directly on my face, and it was time for me to get up and go. And I could hear my ancestors say clearly, "Child, just sit here and get this money. If they don't talk to you, you don't talk to them. You don't want going home with a bag." So that's what I did on 4th of July. And that is it. So what else? Under the weather, 4th of July. What have I been watching? I watched a movie on Tubi last night. It is called Freedom in South Carolina, I believe, or Freedom in North Carolina, one of the Carolinas. And it's set back in the 19th century, so it is before the Civil War. And it was interesting. It was really, really a Afro-futuristic past meets present meets future type of movie. The musical score was very updated. They weren't singing those the spirituals, the enslaved spirituals that they sang back in the day. They actually were singing 21st century songs in this movie, and that was really, really cool. So it's kind of like Sankofa. Have you ever seen the movie Sankofa? Kind of like Sankofa meets Underground. It was really, really good. If you have Tubi, if you don't download it, it's free. A lot of people talk about Tubi and that it has all of these crazy movies and stupid movies. Tubi is a place for independent Black artists and white artists to showcase their work. Do they have the best of movies all the time? Does anyone? Is there any network or any channel that has 100% good movies? Or some of them have, or all of them have some duds? So Tubi is no different. I will say that Tubi has a lot of hidden gems that are old movies to us, but are new to the next generation who needs to probably see those movies. So check Tubi out. There are some great hidden gems on there. Again, some old stuff that we used to look at that our kids probably need to see, and maybe they wouldn't act so crazy in public like they do now. Maybe we can introduce them to some wholesome television that we used to watch and some wholesome movies. Has some great documentaries on there. But yeah, so that is that. Tonight, again, it's going to be short and sweet. I wanted to come on because I started episodes of hoodoo in the Bible, and I talked about herbs that they used in the Bible as well as manifesting in the Bible. And then tonight I wanted to talk about gemstones and crystals in the Bible. There is a lot of YouTubers who are have their tagline or have their YouTube channel devoted to from Jesus to New Age back to Jesus, where these people who were Christians, and they left Christianity and then started studying African spirituality. Not sure of what brand or what, I don't want to say brand, but what part of African spirituality they were studying. But they studied it for a while, and then they went back to Jesus. And the problem that I have with that is because they call it from Jesus to New Age back to Jesus. First of all, it's not New Age. The African spiritual systems and African spiritual practices are not New Age. They are the original foundation of spirituality and of the term or of God. So it wasn't New Age. And if you felt like it was New Age, that's probably why you ended up going back to Christianity, because you were familiar with Christianity and not with the African spiritual systems. And you didn't take the time to even learn it. I know a couple of people. There is a quote unquote friend of mine on Facebook. I don't think we're friends anymore because I think she deleted all of her friends prior to. And I connected with her because she was a tarot reader. And she would come on, and the way she read tarot, she would have the R&B, hip-hop music in the background, and she would always come out and say, I don't read the cards read me. She had a lot of videos also on YouTube that talked about how to dress candles and how to use candle work and hoodoo things and voodoo things. And she did that for a really long time. And in the process of her doing that, she had shaved her head down. She was rocking a bald head. I mean, she was just really, really this cool. She used to call herself, I think, a black witch. I don't know. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she just changed back and said that Jesus called her back and she's going back to church and she's following Jesus again. And she started wearing wigs because I know that somewhere in the Bible it says something about hair being a woman's crowning glory or something to that nature. I don't know. But she started wearing these weird looking wigs. And she was like, I don't care what anybody says. I'm going back to Jesus. And this is the crazy thing. When she was reading tarot, when her livelihood was being a counselor in spirituality, she was fine. When all of a sudden she flipped and went back to Christianity, she started begging for money on Facebook because she was no longer counseling through spirituality. She was now going to be counseling through Christianity. She was no longer reading tarot. And that was her livelihood. That's how she made money. And so now that she's gone back to Christianity, now she doesn't have money. So she did a GoFundMe campaign for people to donate money to her until she got back on her feet. And I thought that was the oddest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I have seen quite a few people that have done this, from Christianity to New Age, from New Age back to Jesus, back to Christianity. There is a woman on YouTube. She has a channel and she talks about not using sage, not burning incense, not using crystals, all of those things that are in the Bible that they use. And I think in my last episode, a couple of weeks ago, I talked about how the Bible used herbs and poured libations and burned incense in the Bible. So, yeah. And then her last episode was talking about crystals and gemstones and how we are not to use those things. And I'm going to just talk about how they were used in the Bible. And one of the gemstones that Christian women don't seem to shy away from and never think that that's bad. We'll talk about that. But before we get started, I want to give honor, thanks, and glory to the divine energy, Mama and Daddy, Father and Mother God. I give you honor and praise. I give honor and praise to my ancestors of Mali, Africa, going back through my mother's lineage, and my ancestors of Guinea-Bissau, Africa, going back through my father's lineage. To all of my ancestors, my beloved, elevated ancestors, I honor you tonight and I give you glory. Thank you. Thank you. Abene. So we're going to talk about there. I pulled this up online, and you can pull it up. You just type in gemstones in the Bible, and it will give you a list of the gemstones that are listed. A lot of times when people want to quote the Bible, they always say, get up and put on your full armor of God. And in part of that full armor that they talk about putting on of God, they talk about the breastplate of righteousness. Now, the breastplate was first mentioned in the Bible back in Exodus, when it talks about the priests like Aaron putting on the breastplate. And so that breastplate of righteousness at that time contained gemstones. And the gemstones, there were 12 gemstones in Aaron's breastplate. And the 12 gemstones were also engraved with the names of one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, you black Christians, you always say that you come from the tribe of Benjamin. So one of those gems would have represented your ancestors and Jesus' ancestors. But we'll see. So I'm reading this from this website that I pulled up. It says 22 gemstones are mentioned in the Bible by name. The gemstones that are mentioned are, and please forgive me if I mispronounce the words. They are adamant, agate, amber, amethyst, beryl, carbuncle, chalcedony, chrysolite, chrysoprase, coral, crystal, diamond, emerald, jacinth, jasper, ligure, onyx, ruby, sapphire, sardius, sardonyx, and topaz. And 12 of those are in Aaron's breastplate. And 2 adorn the shoulder pieces of the priestly ephod. 9 precious stones are listed in the king of Tyre's covering, and 12 are featured in the foundation of the walls of the New Jerusalem. In each collection, many of the stones are repeated. So we have here in the Bible, there are some stones listed throughout the Bible that they use for protection, to adorn themselves. And if you're talking about the New Jerusalem, I mean, doesn't the Bible say that the New Jerusalem is going to have streets of gold and, so those gemstones? So we ain't supposed to use them until we get to heaven? Okay. So in Exodus 39, 10 through 13, it describes the breastplate worn by the Leviticus high priest. The vest contained 12 gemstones, each engraved with the name of a tribe of Israel. And they set in 4 rows of stones, a row with a sardis, a topaz, and an emerald. That was the first row. The second row was turquoise, a sapphire, and a diamond. The third row was jacinth, agate, and amethyst. The fourth was beryl, onyx, and jasper. They were enclosed in settings of gold in their mountings, and that was on the breastplate of the high priest. In Ezekiel 28 and 13, it talks about, it says, you were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. Sardis, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, emerald, carbuncle, and crafted in gold were your settings and your engravings. On that day you were created. They were prepared. So on the day in the Garden of Eden, when the God of the Israelites put forth the motion of bringing things to light, the first thing is he had the garden decorated with precious gems. In Revelations 21, 19 through 21, excuse me, this gives the reader a glimpse of the New Jerusalem. The foundation of the wall of the city were adorned with every kind of jewel. The first, jasper; the second, sapphire; the third, agate; the fourth, emerald; the fifth, onyx; the sixth, carnelian; and the seventh, chrysolite; the eighth, beryl; the ninth, topaz; the 10th, chrysoprase, and the 11th jacinth. The 12th amethyst, and the 12 gates were 12 pearls, each of the gates made of a single pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, like transparent glass. So once again, the Bible is talking about these precious, precious gems that were created in the Bible by God. But we know Mother Nature created these wonderful, precious stones for us to use. Now, people look at using stones as healing crystals. And those who are opposed to anything outside of Jesus will say that this is an occult or witchcraft. I prefer to say it is witch, W-H-I-C-H, craft. Witchcraft are you participating in for your own healing? What is the difference in us going to a doctor and taking synthetic medication, putting it into our bodies, and saying that those doctors were sent by God to give us that medication? You do understand that all doctors aren't Christians. So Jesus wouldn't have sent all doctors. A lot of doctors are Muslims. A lot of doctors are atheists. A lot of doctors are Buddhist. A lot of doctors are Jews. But we don't mind. We'll take that synthetic medication and we'll put it inside of our bodies instead of going to someone who does natural healing that gets medication from the earth like our ancestors did, because they don't put Jesus in front of what they're doing, because they don't say Jesus sent me. Neither does your doctor. Everything that is in the Bible can be used for your good, or it can be used against you. But you have to participate in your own healing, and you have to decide how to use those things for your good as opposed to using it for your bad or against you. How can something that God created, that your God created, be so beautiful that he would use it to adorn his priest with, be the Antichrist? Where does it say in the Bible that you can't use crystals for your healing? Can someone please point that verse out to me where it says you cannot use crystals in healing? I'm waiting. Don't make me wait too long because I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed. But where does it say that? People are waiting for God to just snap his fingers and make you whole. Nobody wants to participate in their own healing. Nobody wants to do anything other than wait on God to do it for them. Even when Jesus healed, the people that he healed had to participate in their healing. He didn't just snap his fingers and say, you are healed. He didn't just snap his fingers and say, you know what? You're not going to be sick anymore. And then all of a sudden you weren't sick anymore. It was something you had to do. It was a ritual that you had to do. It might not have been a long ritual, but it was some type of ritual that you had to do to participate in your own healing. And if people use crystals in those rituals to participate in their own healing, then let them. Let them. Stop telling Christians that, oh, you're not a Christian, or because you're a Christian, you're not supposed to do that. Let people participate in their own healing the way that they see fit. Who made you judge and jury of other people's healing? Even the man that Jesus healed from leprosy had to participate on. He didn't just snap his finger and say, hey, you are healed. He had to go down to the river and wash his hands and wash his body in water. Water is very ritualistic. Very ritualistic. In order for you to be spiritually healed, you have to be baptized. A baptism is a ritual. And Christians, I hate to bust your bubble, but y'all not the only ones that baptize people. Y'all not. So because you see somebody getting baptized, don't mean they getting baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. It's not what it means. You have to participate. When Jesus cured the blind man, he did a ritual of making mud and putting it on his eyes. He didn't just snap his fingers and say, now you can see. So crystals can be used in healing people's bodies, people's minds, and people's spirit if they choose to participate in that healing. Taking medication is a ritual. When you get your medication from your pharmacist that the doctor has prescribed, the ritual, the instructions to the ritual is right on the pill bottle. Take this at this time, every day, this many times a day, with food or without food. Don't take this with that. It's a ritual. And so I will again say, not witchcraft, but witchcraft are you using to participate in your own healing? You can go back and look up the gemstones. I just went through it really quickly of the different gemstones that you find and what they were used for. You can go in and deep dive and talk about and learn about the different gems and how they were used. We do know that rubies were mentioned in Proverbs a few times. Sapphire, topaz, all of those things, all those beautiful, beautiful, beautiful crystals. And the one gemstone that women never look at as it being anti-Christ, anti-God, occultish, is when your man buys you that big diamond and put it on your finger to become his wife. All of a sudden, gemstones aren't that bad. And they are part of a ritual. The ritual of asking you to marry them. It's a ritual. Everything is a ritual. And you're using that ritual. Now, nowhere in the Bible does it say that a man gives a woman a diamond ring when he asks her to be his wife. It doesn't say that in the Bible. So why, out of all the gemstones in the Bible that it talks about, is the only one that you don't have a problem with is the diamond? I'll tell you why. The same reason why the only thing that Christians take from the Old Testament is tithing. Everything else is under the grace of God or under the grace of Jesus, or we're saved by grace and not by, or whatever it is. I don't even forgot what it is. But that's the same reason, because it benefits you. It benefits you. You like wearing that big diamond on your finger, that big gemstone. Yeah, you do. But hey, Who am I to judge? Okay, so that's it for tonight. I am feeling very tired. As you can hear, I am getting very congested, stuffy. At night, it really, really gets bad. But I wanted to do this because I have some other things that I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to complete the 2-part series of hoodoo in the Bible. When I say 2-part, the parts about the gemstones and the roots and herbs that they use in the Bible. I'm not done with hoodoo in the Bible. Every episode we will find hoodoo somewhere in the Bible. But right now, I'm going to go to bed because I'm tired and I'm getting congested. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, look it up for yourself. Find the different gemstones that are in the Bible. Until next time, you guys, be good, be safe, have a good evening, good morning, good day, good weekend, good week, whatever it is, time you are listening to this podcast episode. Until next time, peace.